Welcome to another episode with Excellence Tuition Center. Today we are going to be revising Combined Science Paper 1 Multiple Choice. The first part of the paper is Biology section, followed by Chemistry, and also followed by the Physics. And lastly, this is the Physics section. So the first question, number 1, it reads, the diagram shows a pulsed cell. The function of, so this is our pulsed cell. The function of part X is 2. So what you need to do here is to identify the structure labeled X. So this is a chloroplast. This space here is the vacuole. This is the nucleus. And this is the cell wall. So the chloroplast, its function is to trap sunlight. So its function is to trap sunlight. So the answer is A. Number 2, the diagram shows a food web. So this is the food web starting from the producer grass. This is the primary consumer, secondary consumer on this food chain, and this is another food chain, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and this one is another food chain. So this is the producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and this one becomes a tertiary consumer. So a food web is just an interconnection of many food chains. So a food web consists of many food chains joined together. So the question is, which organism is a secondary consumer? So our secondary consumer is, so here we have the secondary consumer. The best answer is the what? The frog, which is C. So here is C. Other possible answer was wild dog, using this food chain or this food chain, because this is the primary consumer, secondary consumer, but it is not given on the answers. So the correct answer is frog, using this food chain. This becomes the producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer. So our answer is C. Question 3, it reads, which human characteristics shows discontinuous variation? So discontinuous variation consists of discrete data. So discrete data is just, for example, like yes or no, either male or female. There are only two parts of it, either it's a positive or a negative. And the opposite of discontinuous is continuous variation, which is continuous data, or it follows a normal distribution curve. So here the characteristics which shows discontinuous variation is the sex, which is the gender, either male or female. Mass, height, and foot length, these show continuous variation. Question 4, during digestion, the enzyme amylase converts. So the enzyme amylase, it converts starch to maltose. So maltose is a sugar, so starch is converted to the sugar maltose. So the answer here is C. Question 5, kwashiorkor is a deficiency disease caused by lack of proteins. So lack of proteins causes kwashiorkor. So the deficiency disease caused by lack of proteins is kwashiorkor. So the answer is B. An experiment was set up to investigate a factor of photosynthesis as shown in the diagram. So we have a plastic bag. So this is the plastic bag which is covering this leaf, and we have sodium hydroxide solution. And here we have a green leaf, and we have water. What is the function of sodium hydroxide in this experiment? So the function of sodium hydroxide in this experiment is to absorb carbon dioxide. So the answer is C. So sodium hydroxide is alkaline in nature, so it can react with carbon dioxide, which is acidic in nature. So carbon dioxide is an acidic gas, So it is some sort of a neutralization reaction. So the function of sodium hydroxide is to absorb carbon dioxide gas. Question 7. The diagram shows part of the human respiratory system. In which part A, B, C, or D does gaseous exchange take place? So here we need to identify the part where gaseous exchange take place. So this is the windpipe or the trachea. This is the bronchus, and this is the alveolus. This is the rib cage. So gaseous exchange takes place in the alveolus, which is D. Number 8. Blood capillaries have. So blood capillaries. So here this question requires you to recall the adaptations or the structure of blood capillaries. So the structure of blood capillaries, which is correct here, is they have walls that are 1 cell thick. So the answer here is C. Which component of blood carries hormones around the body? So the component of blood which carries hormones around the body is the plasma. So the plasma is the one which acts as a medium for transportation of substances in blood. Number 10. The diagram shows the general structure of a flower. Which part A, B, C, or D develops into a fruit after fertilization? So the ovary is the one which develops into a fruit after fertilization, whilst the ovules develop into seeds. So the correct answer here is C. So the ovary is the one which develop into a fruit. A is the stigma and B is the anther. Question 11. It reads, the diagram shows the male reproductive system. Which part A, B, C, or D is cut or tied during sterilization? So sterilization is a process whereby you want to prevent the male from bearing children. So the part which is cut in the process of sterilization is B, which is the sperm duct. So the sperm duct functions to transmit sperms from the epididymis into the urethra and out of the penis. So part B, when it is cut, there is no pathway for sperms to travel from the epididymis out of the penis to the female vagina. So the correct answer here is B. So this is the structure which is cut during sterilization. Number 12. The diagram shows a process in human reproduction. So here this is the ovum or the female egg cell, and these are the sperm cells, and you can see that this sperm cell no longer has its head, so it has entered into the ovum, and this is the nucleus of the female egg cell. So which process is shown? So the process whereby the female egg cell and the male egg cell or the male sex cell fuse is called fertilization. So the correct answer here is D. Which disease is caused by bacteria? So here the disease which is caused by bacteria is C, which is what? Syphilis. So C is caused by a bacteria. And number 14, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pains are signs and symptoms of. So the most correct answer here is B. So these are the signs and symptoms of cholera. Question 15, which is a chemistry section. So it reads, the diagram shows a method of separating dyes. So this is our diagram. We have the ink on the starting line, the baseline. Here we have a cover. You have a cover which prevents the solvent from evaporating. Usually the solvent that is used is ethanol. So the method of separation shown in the diagram is chromatography, which is D. Number 16, which substance is a mixture? So a mixture is a substance which consists of two or more substances which are not chemically joined. So here the mixture is air. The correct answer here is air. So air is a mixture because it consists of oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and other gases which are not chemically joined. Whereas oxygen is just a pure substance with oxygen only, magnesium is only magnesium, and magnesium oxide is a compound just because it is chemically joined, magnesium and oxygen. So the correct answer is A. Number 17, 1 mole of hydrogen and 1 mole of sodium chloride have the same number of, the correct answer here is D. They have the same number of particles. So here we are using Avogadro's law, which states that for any 1 mole of any substance, it consists of 6.023 times 10 to the power 23 particles. So as long as it has 1 mole, it doesn't matter whether it's an atom or it's a compound. They all have the same number of particles, which is given by Avogadro's number, which is 6 times 10 to the power 23. Question 18. An organic compound contains 84% carbon and 16% hydrogen by mass. What is the empirical formula of the organic compound? So you are also given atomic mass of carbon is 12 and that of hydrogen is 11. So here it requires us to calculate the empirical formula. So for calculating the empirical formula, you can just construct a standard table which you can use. So the first thing to note here is the mass. So we are given percentages, so you can just directly convert those percentages into masses. So carbon is 84 grams, hydrogen it was 16%, so it becomes 16 grams. And the next step is to calculate the number of moles, which is represented by small letter n. So the number of moles is given by the mass divided by the mR. So for carbon, it is 84 over 12, and you get 7. For oxygen, for hydrogen, you're going to say 16 over 1, which is equals to 16. And the next step, we divide these numbers by the smallest. So we divide by smallest n. So we're going to say, so from the number of moles for carbon is 7, the number of moles for hydrogen is 16. So the smallest is 7. So divide both sides by 7. And here also divide by 7. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. And here you get 2,29. So if you round this, it becomes 2. So here finally we have 1, and this becomes 2. So it becomes C1H2. So the correct answer here is B. Or the correct answer is B. Number 19, it reads, which process is used to manufacture ammonium nitrate fertilizer from ammonia? So the process is neutralization, where ammonia reacts with the nitrate. Liquid ammonia or aqueous ammonia reacts with nitrate to form ammonium nitrate. So the answer is D. Number 20. Lemon juice is considered to be a weak acid. Which observations with litmus paper shows that lemon juice is an acid? So with blue litmus paper, in the presence of an acid, it turns red, and the red litmus paper, it remains red. So the correct answer here is B. B is the correct answer, where blue litmus paper turns red and red litmus paper remains red. Number 21. The question reads, the diagram shows a reaction between hydrochloric acid with a substance X to produce magnesium salt, and this is the diagram, and hydrogen gas has been produced here. So this is a syringe which is used to measure the amount of gas which has been produced. In this case, it is hydrogen gas which is being produced, so it measures the amount of hydrogen gas being produced. And this is our conical flask, and we have substance X and dilute hydrochloric acid. And the question says substance X is, so substance X is magnesium, just because the general equation for the reaction of metals and acids gives us a salt and hydrogen gas. So the reactant which gives us magnesium salt and hydrogen gas here is magnesium and hydrochloric acid. Magnesium oxide, it gives us magnesium chloride and water. It is an acid-base reaction. And also for magnesium hydroxide, it also gives us magnesium chloride and water. So the best answer was A. Question 22. The question reads, the flow diagram shows the stages involved in the separation of the gases in air. So we start with filtration, cool to minus 78 degrees Celsius, compress and cool to minus 200 degrees Celsius. And then the last process is fractional distillation, where the gases are separated into fractions. Which gas is collected as a liquid at a temperature of minus 183 degrees Celsius by the fractional distillation process? So the gas which is collected as a liquid at minus 183 degrees Celsius is oxygen, which is C. Question 23. It reads, the equation shows the production of sulfur trioxide. So this is the equation. So it's 2SO2, which is sulfur dioxide, plus O2, which is oxygen, to give 2SO3, which is sulfur trioxide. And delta H is equals to minus 98 kilojoules per mole. So this just means the enthalpy change of the reaction is equals to negative 98 kilojoules per mole. So if it is a negative, it means that it is an exothermic reaction. An exothermic reaction is a reaction in which heat or energy is released from the reaction. An endothermic would have a positive sign here, let us say plus 98. So an endothermic reaction indicates that energy is being absorbed from the surroundings by the reaction. So the question now reads, the equation shows that the production of sulfur trioxide is, so the correct answer is an exothermic process. So the answer is D. Question 24. The question reads, the diagram shows an experiment set up to investigate the conditions necessary for rusting. Which test tube, A, B, C, or D, will have a rusting nail? So for rusting to take place, we need iron, also need water, also need oxygen. So rusting is an oxidation process. So the combination of water and oxygen speed up the oxidation of iron into iron 3 oxide. So here, the test tube that we have a rusting nail is going to be test tube A. That's because it is exposed to both oxygen and moisture. So here it is not covered. Here we have an oil layer. So this oil layer prevents the entrance of oxygen. So this one is protected. Here we have a magnesium ribbon. So the magnesium ribbon, from our reactivity series, magnesium is more reactive than iron. So here this is a sacrificial protection technique where the magnesium reacts first and it protects the nail from rusting. And here we have anhydrous calcium chloride. So anhydrous means that it is deficient of water or it lacks moisture. So anhydrous, it means that it is going to absorb the water or the moisture which comes protecting the nail. So A The test tube A is the one which is exposed to both conditions, moisture and oxygen. So the correct answer here is A. So 24, that is A. Which metal is used to galvanize iron? So the metal that is used to galvanize iron, that is zinc, which is B. The diagram shows the preparation of ethanol. So this is the apparatus for the preparation of ethanol. We have Z plus yeast, and it is reacting here, which is going to produce carbon dioxide gas, which turns lime water milky. So the question is substance X, substance Z is, so substance Z is a glucose solution, because what is needed in the production of ethanol is a sugar or a sugar producing substance like sugar cane or starch. So when it is fermented in the presence of yeast, it produces ethanol, which is an alcohol, and carbon dioxide. So the correct answer here is B. Question 27. To which homologous series do methane, ethane, and propane belong? So we can see here their names, they end with ANE. So if the suffix of the name is ANE, the homologous series to which those compounds belong is the alkanes homologous series. You can see also that the alkanes, the name also ends with ANE. So you can use that to memorize. So question 27, the correct answer here is A. Question 28, which is now physics section. The question reads, the diagram shows a scale on a micrometer screw gauge. So this is part of the micrometer screw gauge, where we have this main scale and this rotating scale. And the question says the measurement shown is, so the steps of reading the micrometer screw gauge is that we take the highest reading which can be seen on the main scale. So here this is 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5. So the highest reading which can be seen here is 3.50, and we add with a reading on the rotating scale which coincides with the horizontal line on the main scale. So here, and we take it to 2 decimal places. So this becomes 0.30. So this 0.30 is the one which is in a straight line with the horizontal line on the main scale. So it becomes 3.50 plus 0.30. So if we add 0 plus 0, 0, 5 plus 3, that is 8. Put our comma, 3 plus 0, that is 3. So the micrometer screw gauge measures our measurements in millimeters. So it becomes 3.80 millimeters, which is C. Question 29. Which one is a form of potential energy? So here the form of potential energy is C, elastic energy. So it is elastic potential energy. We also have gravitational potential energy, which is associated by the height above the ground of an object. Question 30, it reads, a force of 20 newtons is used to push an object of mass 8 kilograms. The acceleration of the object is, so this question requires us to apply Newton's second law of motion, which says that the acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the resultant force on it, provided that the mass remains constant. So it summarizes the formula F is equals to ma, where F is the force, m is the mass, and a is the acceleration. So you are supposed to find the acceleration of the object. So if we substitute the quantities, our force, it is 20, is equals to the mass, this is 8, multiplied by a, the acceleration. Divide both sides by 8, divide both sides by 8. So we get our acceleration being equal to 2.5 meters per second squared. So here the correct answer is B. Question 31, it reads, the diagrams show the 4 strokes of a petrol engine, but not in sequential order. In which diagram A, B, C, or D is chemical energy converted into kinetic energy? So for a petrol engine, we have 4 strokes, which you can summarize by the mnemonic ICPE, which is the inlet, compression, power, and the exhaust. So here, the stroke which converts chemical energy into kinetic energy is A, which is the power stroke. So in the power stroke, that is when the spark plug ignites and it forces the piston to move down. Question 32, it reads, the diagram shows a simple machine. So this is our simple machine. So this is an inclined plane. So this is our vertical height and then our inclined distance. What is the velocity ratio of the machine? So the velocity ratio is given by distance moved by effort over distance moved by load. So the distance moved by effort, our effort here is the 20 newtons. So the effort is the force which is going to move our object upwards here on the inclined plane, and the load is the weight of the object. So our load is 100 newtons. So you can see the direction of the 20 newton, which is the effort, is in the same direction with the inclined distance, and also our weight, which is the 100 newton, is in a vertical plane because weight always acts vertically downwards to the ground. So the distance moved by the effort is the 7.5 meters divided by the distance moved by the load or the weight is 2.5 meters. So this is 2.5 meters. So it becomes 7.5 meters over 2.5 meters. So this is equal to 3, and it has no units because meters cancel with meters. So it has no units by deriving units. So we are saying the velocity ratio is 3 for this inclined plane. So our answer is B. Question 33, it reads, the diagram shows forces acting on an object. So the forces, we have the 20 Newton force and the 10 Newton force. The question wants us to find the resultant force. So the resultant force, we just resolve the forces which are acting on the object. So we have 20 Newton going to the right and 10 Newton going to the left. So you simply subtract 20 minus 10, which is equals to 10 newtons. So our answer is A. Question 34. Which one is the correct formula for calculating pressure? So we have two formulas for calculating pressure. We have the one which says pressure is equals to force over area, and the one for liquid we say pressure is equals to density times acceleration due to gravity times the depth. So here one of the formulas is B, which is given by pressure is equal to force over area. So the answer is B. Question 35. It reads, in a hydraulic system, there are two valves P and Q as shown in the diagram. So this is valve P and valve Q. And the question says, what happens to the valves when piston R moves down? So when this piston moves down, what you need to find is the valve which remains closed and the valve which opens. So by the arrangement of the valves here, you can see if this piston moves down, it's going to create a force which is going to compress here, which is going to push on valve G, on valve P, and since valve P opens in this direction, it means the pressure which is going to act here is going to close valve P, but for valve Q, the pressure is going to force it open, since the valves are hinged on this part and on this part. So here, valve Q is going to open and valve P, it closes. So valve P closes and valve Q opens. So the correct answer here is D. Question 36. It reads, the total mass of 40 identical seeds is 4.80 grams. What is the mass of one seed? So if 40 seeds have a mass of 4.8 grams, what about one? So here you can have a ratio to say 40 seeds is to 4.8 grams. What about one seed? It is 2x. So if you cross multiply, you get 40x is to 4.8. And if you divide both sides by 40, you're going to get our x being equal to 0.12 grams. So our answer is A. Which physical quantity should remain constant when applying Ohm's law? So Ohm's law states that the voltage across an ohmic conductor is directly proportional to the current, provided that temperature and other physical conditions remain constant. So the correct answer here is D, which is temperature. Question 38. A direct current DC motor converts. So a motor converts electrical energy into kinetic energy. So the question here, the answer here is C. Question 39, it reads, light waves are transmitted inside, so light waves, they are transmitted inside optic fibers. So the correct answer here is A. Question 40, an example of an unguided transmission media is. So an unguided transmission media is when it is not limited within a specific medium, for example, like a cable and optic fiber. So the unguided media which can propagate in any direction is Wi-Fi. So the correct answer here is D. So ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our revision on Combined Science Paper 1, which is a multiple choice which was written in June 2024. Stay tuned and join us for more episodes. Thank you for watching.